Negros, indios, nativos, somos los verdaderos israelitas.
¿Esto dónde lo dice, según el versículo?
Esto dice en la Biblia.
Show that Puerto Ricans love America, but that ain't reality.
Police attack was planned beforehand. Only white cops were assigned.
Then our only recourse is to defend ourselves.
We tried to move people onto the sidewalk, but the police were all out for blood.
Another series of protests was staged by thousands of students, parents, and the Brown Berets. In June 1968, the group that had become known as the East LA 13 was released on bail.
Demonstrate to our people and we deserve better and that we could, get better.
I don't think there's ever been a time when we need more of the spirit of the young lords than today.
I guess we had no fear. We just did what we thought at the time was the right thing to do.
National captain of the Black Panther Party. They are making it their business to process arresting me and my wife, through a process of arresting numerous Panthers on the block.
Police just went in and started beating them viciously. It was ugly. They were just yelling at us, you dirty spicks, dirty Mexicans, who do you think you are?
Negros, indios, nativos, somos los verdaderos israelitas.
¿Esto dónde lo dice, según el versículo?
Esto dice en la Biblia. Está escrita en la Reina Valera.
We got to live in this district. The whiteys don't come down here, man, and live in the fucked up houses, man. The whiteys don't come down here, man, and have all the fucked up fucking no heat in the fucking winter time. You understand? We do, Jack. So therefore, like, wow, we got to make it a better place. You understand that? Like they want to make it a racial problem, So we didn't want that, So I jumped in, I put in for my boy, because he's a black brother. So we made an unracial problem. We the Puerto Ricans should rise up and defend ourselves against these dogs. The North American is trying to steal our identity as Puerto Ricans and call us Americans. We Puerto Ricans are Puerto Ricans till the day we are born, until the day we die.
Chicanos killing Chicanos is what they want. Blacks and Chicanos killing each other is what they want. That's how they run this place. Once we get together, they don't run shit.
Ahora sí. Hey, Tawada Tabaganas, good looking out. No sound. Huzzah, I got it. Tawada. Once again, this is the ISUPK out of California. ISUPK Inconvenient Truth. This is Kazagiyat 5000 coming to you live from out here from Cali. Welcome everybody to the show. Saludos Tabaganas. I think Tabaganas is out there in the motherland in El Salvador. You know what I'm saying? Kitin Navarro, Tazat, Tawada for tuning in and staying with me. Let me let you know again. You know, I'm also on the res, ISUPK the res, just in case something goes wrong here. You know that we're going to be on the res, so go ahead and tune in. I'm also going to be live on my channel, ISUPK, what is that, Kazakh Yad, YouTube, you know, and Salakia, Kazakh Yad, Facebook. Of course, I'm also on YouTube, but you can log on to any of the channels just in case I go out. You know what I mean? Kitin Navarro, Shalom, Carnal. But we back on. What are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about the Pope, right? Going up to, what is that? He went up to Canada to ask for forgiveness for what the Catholic Church had done during the times of the, what is that? The boarding schools, the Carlisle schools. I'm going deep. The Carlisle schools, the residential schools. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? No, sir. I'm still here. Órale, Tabag. Stay tuned, Tabag. You got to stay in touch, carnalito. So all this was happening, Yashapar, Shalom, Tawar for joining in. All this was happening, and the Catholic Church was doing these horrendous atrocities to the Native American Indian people. You know what I mean? Manalik, no live feed. I am live. Can you see me? I'm also on the ISUPK on my channel, which is ISUPK Kazakh Yad. You can catch me there on Facebook. But right now, hopefully everything is streaming. If you can see this show, I'm doing good so far. You know what I'm saying? Pero saludos a toda la raza que me está sintonizando hoy. Ya saben, estamos aquí todos los miércoles en este canal muy importante. La verdad inconviene. Aquí mero vamos a hablar de las cosas que están sucediendo con la raza y toda nuestra gente, los morenos, indios nativos y la raza latina, ¿verdad? Entonces, para eso estamos aquí, para esto mismo, right? So everybody, the water for jumping in, for tuning in. Now we got a great show. I did this show. If you don't know, we do this show on Monday called La Neta. You want to tune in? All the brothers join in. We got a great show, La Neta, just in case you miss it. It's every Monday. Man, support our show. It's our podcast that we have every Monday. A través de ISUPK Mexico or La Neta, we're going to be showing it. Come on down, join us. You know, we want you to participate. We want you to be, you know, part of it. Let me tell you something. Listen close. To not say anything is to condone what's going on. To not lift the voice is to allow it to continue going on. And to not participate is as ignoring the situation. And we're not going to do that. That's what we're here for. We're here to uplift our Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indian brothers and to bring them to the forefront for what has been done to us, correct? So let's go real quick. I got a little clip that I want to show you real quick. It's a little video that I have. You know, you can check out all my documentaries on ISUPK Inconvenient Truth on YouTube. I got a lot of documentaries there, something I download them to show them here. But the documentaries that I've been putting together for the last 5-6 years since I've been doing the Inconvenient Truth. But for now, let me go to this real quick to get you started, get a jump on, because that the Pope went up to apologize and to say he was sorry for what the atrocities that were committed by the Christian, because he said Christian church, but in reality, it was the Catholic Church that did that. You know what I'm saying? We know about Junipero Serra. If you don't know about Junipero Serra was a monster. He's the man that created let me get there real quick. He was the man that created the missions all across California. There's a road called El Camino Real, which is a road that was invented by the Catholic Church and these monsters who were priests to make it sound like it was such a beautiful thing to come to California. But what they forgot to mention, that this road was a death road for our Native American Indian brothers. And you know what? Let me tell you something. I'm talking about California, correct? And Arizona. But these are Mexican Indians when you talk about California, Arizona, Texas, right? Nevada, right? When you talk about Colorado, these are Mexican Indian people. This is raza. California was Raza territory, right? Our Native American Indian brothers, of course, they participate on the East Coast, Midwest. That was a lot of the Native American Indian. But when you come to California, it was all Raza that was out here. And what we experienced was the same thing that the Native American Indian, that so-called Native American Indian, we know them as Gadites, right? Our Gadite brothers experienced at the hands and without mercy of the Catholic Church, because that's who did that to us, the Catholic Church. Let's not get it twisted. The Pope tried to use the word, oh, the Christians, but let's face it, you Catholics are the ones who did this, the Catholic Church. And I'm going to go on to say this. The Catholic Church robbed all the gold from Mexico, from the Incas, from the Mayas. They took all that gold back. Cortez and all the conquistadores, right, took all that gold back to Spain. And with that gold, they built their cathedrals. They got rich off that gold. They used that gold for their own. And then every generation after them was prospering off of the rape and murder that they created, right, that they did when they took all that. Territorio robado, right? This is Tabagana is absolutely right. With this, I'm in California, I like to call it occupied territory, stolen land. This is occupied territory. This is northern Mexico. That's what this is in reality. So the Catholic Church, get it right, they prospered, and all their generations after them prospered off the robbing, raping of gold and all the, natural resources of Latin America. Because that's another thing you got to understand. It's not only Salakia. It's not only about the gold they stole, because long after the gold was stolen, they came back and used our land, our land, to make themselves rich with the plantations, right? They had the sugar plantations that came. Then the cotton fields, right? That came. Then the banana plantations for Latinoamérica, lo que es Honduras y Guatemala y Centroamérica, el tiempo de los bananeros, the time of the bananas. They increased slave ship in Latin America, in Central America, to enrich themselves using our natural resources to make themselves rich, and using us as slave labor, because they didn't pay for that, slave labor to make themselves rich. And in California, of course, the gold rush of 1849, the gold rush, right? Another one of our natural resources that they use to enrich themselves. So you're looking at gold, you're looking at bananas, you're looking at sugar, you're looking at coffee, right? You're looking at the silver mines, right? Should I go deeper into this? You're looking at the slave labor. What is that? The trade they did. The Japanese are in Mexico property. Absolutely, Manalik. Let me post that up. If you're watching ISUPK, our live stream, our StreamYard, you can comment and bam, I'll put you up there. The Japanese are in Mexico profiting even to this day. So everybody profits off of us, off of our labor, even in America. Even in America, they talk about, well, they're illegals, right? They're wetbacks. Because I want to use that word, they're trying to use that word, what is that, immigrants? No, and let's get it right. Because that's what they're calling us today. They're immigrants. Well, guess what? The British were immigrants. The goddamn Greeks were immigrants. The Italians were immigrants. The Irish were immigrants. The English were immigrants. Well, then we're immigrants too. So why don't we have the same rights that those immigrants had? But instead, you know what we are? We them wetbacks, because they don't want us here. They're trying to say they're immigrants. The immigrants. If we were really immigrants, they would be helping us to get papers so that we can stay in our own land. But that's not the way it's working. We're not immigrants. They're just using that name because they know if they use any other name, it sounds discriminatory. So that's why they don't want to use that name. They want to call us immigrants. They want to call Latinos immigrants. Well, these immigrants, we got a flow of immigrants. The Irish were immigrants. The English were immigrants. The Germans were immigrants. The Italians were immigrants. But yet, us, when they talk about us and using the word immigrant, they've got detention centers for Mexican immigrants. They got detention centers for Salvadoreño immigrants, Guatemalan immigrants, right? That's what they have for us. We're not immigrants. They're just using that word because they know how bad it sounds for them to call us wetbacks. right? Because that's what they really think of us, you know. So going back to the point, right? These people use our labor to make themselves, their nation, their people, their generations rich. And you got the Pope coming over here talking about, well, we apologize for what happened, and you know, we're sorry, and I'm so moved for what happened. Let me tell you something, they're not sorry. Because more than about 5 years ago, the president of Mexico asked the Catholic Church and the Spanish government that they should come down and they should sit at a table where they could apologize for the atrocities that they committed on Latin America, right, during the conquest. And that they should put everything to the side and, you know, learn to heal. That's what they say. Let's learn to heal from what you did. Well, the Catholic Church said, no, well, we're not going to do that. And the Spanish said, well, we're really never going to do that. We don't need to do that. There's no need for that. So the Catholic Church and the Spaniards refused to go down to Mexico and apologize for the atrocities that they committed on my people, right? So there is no apology for Hispanics, for Mexicans, for Salvadoreños, right? Tabag, you're absolutely right. What he did when he went to this place in this Indian reservation up in Canada was cry alligator tears. Man, hypocrite tears. Tears of hypocrisy. That's what he did. Because they really don't care. Because if they'd have cared, they would have seen us all as the same. I see us all the same. I'm feeling my brothers, man. I've spoken so many times and so many videos of the boarding schools, of the Carlisle schools, of the missions, right? Because I understand how impacting this was to children, to our brothers and sisters, what it did to us as a people. But the Catholic Church does not see that. They don't give a damn about it. To them, it doesn't matter. But to us, it does matter. To us, it's very important that we recognize that these people don't care about us, right? That these people really have no sympathy for us, right? They don't have no sympathy. They have no remorse. They really don't care about what they did to us. The reason why he's out there doing this is very simple, because to them it's how could I say, a publicity role, a publicity stunt, part of what do they call it? They have a name for it. It's public relations. That's what it's really called, public relations. And Khan, absolutely. Let me tell you, when he went up there, exactly what my brother Manalik Gutierrez is saying, because that's exactly what they are. That's exactly what the Bible has told us that they are. Their words, the words of his mouth, were smoother than butter, but war is in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they are drawn a sword. And the video you're about to watch, that I'm about to show you, pretty much fits this precept perfectly, right? So I'm going to let you watch it for a little bit, and then we're going to come back and continue. But keep a close attention to what's going on here, because like I said, you know, let me not speak. Let those that went through it speak for themselves. That apology that he's trying to give is garbage. That's what I want to call it.
And death is coming.
Let's go with it.
Then I need to be protecting my family, and I want my children.
Let me rewind this real quick and get you going. Made many promises, more than I can remember, but they keep one. They promised to take our land, and they took it. That's what the white man.
By the early 19th century, the U.S. was rapidly growing, both in size and power. Land-hungry and ambitious, the new country was also drastically changing its policies towards the Indian nations. And nowhere was this more evident than in the treaties.
The United States' primary interest in treaty making was to acquire Indian land. And so the treaties were used for that purpose, especially as the United States found itself in a position to pretty much dictate the terms of the treaty. And so the treaties morphed from this friendship and reciprocity sort of relationship into a very one-sided thing.
There's almost a mythology about this, that somehow when the Pilgrims arrived, they were dragging land behind them. There was no land brought here. The land here was Native nations. And this is what the United States needed. It's what it wanted. They wanted all of it. They wanted everything.
The greed came in. Well, we have a little tract here now we need a little more. And, well, we need to go make another treaty. We didn't understand that eventually those treaty-making processes ended up to the acquisition of all of our ancestral homeland. That land was a part of us. That land helped us be. That land was who we were and who we are.
The command of removal came unexpectedly upon most of us. There was a time that we noticed several overloaded wagons were passing our home, yet we did not grasp the meaning. Then one day, wagons stopped. We were to be taken away and leave our homes, never to return.
To get what they wanted, U.S. officials brokered treaties through any means available. Their tactics were so corrupt that the once trusted treaties became quickly known as bad paper.
There were people at these treaty negotiations who would do anything to get an agreement on the table. And so there was very routinely bribery, individual payments made to tribal leaders. Alcohol would be used to put people in an agreeable frame of mind, and even coercion to say to people, you must sign this agreement or else.
Every means of trickery and fraud was employed against Native nations. The United States would appoint a false leadership, people who had no right to speak for the tribe, and say, you're the leader of this tribe, sign this paper giving away all your land.
As the century progressed, the treaties became more and more lopsided, a far cry from the parallel paths of the Goswenta. Despite appeals from the Indian nations, the U.S. kept on its new trajectory, rationalizing its aggressive actions along the way.
They have neither the intelligence, the industry, the moral habits, nor the desire of improvement. The tribes of Indians inhabiting this country were fierce savages. To leave them in possession of their country was to leave the country a wilderness.
It's important in the great American mythology to describe the Americas as wilderness. Because of its wilderness, then there's really nobody to dispossess. It was okay to come here and prosper and conveniently forget that there were already people and civilizations in place.
At first we had something to eat, but that gave out and we were starving. We came to a slippery elm tree and ate the bark of that. Lots took sick and died.
As Americans successfully pushed the bounds of the frontier, they not only believed that they were destined to take over the land and prosper, they believed that God was the one who put them there to do it.
They believed that it was God's will, that the United States should be a continental nation stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. As each wave of immigration would come, they'd move into an area. The United States would then make some sort of arrangement with the tribe to get that land from them, and then more would come, and they'd advance the frontier even further.
The power of manifest destiny, of expansion, of inevitability, of God's providence helped to rally people around not only the idea of Americans as entitled to North America, but rallied them around the idea that Indian people were barriers to civilization and barriers to progress.
No matter how many treaties were signed or how much land they gave to the United States, the Indian was still in the way. This was known as the Indian problem. This so-called problem continued despite a decades-old policy to force Indians to swap their land east of the Mississippi for land west of it. The Indians would then move to those western parts and away from the Americans. This plan was simply called removal.
The Removal Act was the centerpiece of Andrew Jackson's political agenda, and it was very controversial at the time. It was very widely debated. There was lots of discussion across the country, and very many prominent people spoke up against it.
Will the American government steal? Will it lie? Will it kill? I have no desire to see the poor remnants of a once powerful people. The removal bill represents oppression with a vengeance.
The removal process, it was, all right, you've made these treaties. Now, you can have one of two things. You can keep your sovereignty, but you can't keep your land. But if you keep your land, then you have to assimilate and no longer be Indian. You will have sovereignty or you have your land. You can't have both.
Across the United States, the Removal Act divided the country. But across the Indian nations, reaction was unanimous.
We are surrounded by white people, and there are encroachments made. What assurances have we that similar ones will not be made on us should we remove to the Mississippi? Look here, Father. Our lands belong to us. We shall keep them. We do not wish to talk to you anymore.
We had already been fighting to keep that land. And sure enough, when the government was coming in there to take us out of that land, we fought even more. But at some point, you have to realize that this fighting is all going to be about death. And death is coming. Then I need to be protecting my family. And I want my children to survive. So we have to endure this removal.
Many of the tribes did choose to accept removal as a means of maintaining the tribal nation. What choice was there? After decades of engagement, they could no longer resist. And so they gave up their lands, they gave up their homes, they gave up their fields and forests, they gave up literally their way of life in order to be able to stay together and be what they were.
We are poor, but we are free. No white man controls our footsteps.
Some tried to assimilate to avoid removal. Some were removed completely. But in the end, every nation met the same fate. Every nation had to give up land.
Brothers, you cannot remain where you are now. You have but one remedy within your reach, and that is to remove to the west. May the Great Spirit teach you how to choose.
The loss of land was devastating, and so was the loss of lives. The most famous of these incidents was the Cherokee Nation's Trail of Tears, but there were numerous other trails just as violent and just as crushing.
Everyone had to walk. My baby brother Joel was 4 years old. I was just 8, but I took my turn at carrying him because he could not walk much. I would get so tired I'd think I was going to die, but I would hang on to him. I was so afraid they would kill him. I saw them kill babies who were too big to be carried and would give out.
That really was a road of death. People were falling on the side of the road or being shot or being murdered on the road and being left there. The removal process was done in a way that was not efficient in making people survive.
Of the millions of Indian people that lived before the first colonists arrived, by the end of the 19th century, only 250,000 remained.
The removal of a tribe was certain to destroy all of the things they knew about taking care of themselves, all of their medicines, all of their foods. Everything about them had to change in order to survive. It can only be understood as an act of destruction.
When you move a people from one place to another, when you displace people, when you wrench people from their homelands, wasn't that genocide? We don't make the case that there was genocide. We know there was, yet here we are.
When we were forced to leave our land, we took the fires with us. We took the embers along. Then when we got to Oklahoma, we rekindled the old fire. Old home or new home, it is the same fire.
All right. Shalom, Rasa. Man, that's devastating. You know what I'm saying? Let me get back out here real quick. Let me remove that real quick. All right, man, that's devastating. That, you know, to hear that story, to watch that is like, if you ain't got, if you don't feel nothing, is because, man, you just not. You know what I'm saying? And let me get my brother in here real quick. Sorry, Yash, I know you're there. Give me 1 second. Let me get you on real quick. You got brother Chariash out of Chicago. ISUPK the Red. Let me get you on real quick, Chariash. Let me get you on. Chariash. Okay, there we go. Sending you an invite right now, Chariash. Try to get you in, okay? There you go. You got to be on the StreamYard, Chariash, so we can both be on the screen. So get on the StreamYard. I just sent you the invite. Hopefully you can jump on. So, man, devastating, carnal, devastating. Like, but what you're looking at there is exactly what happened to the Mexican Indian of California inside of the of what's known as the missions in California. No different than what happened to them happened to us. And let me tell you something. That's part one of what happened to our Native American Indian brothers and sisters. Part two is the boarding schools, the Carlisle schools, the schools of the Americas that they called, right, the residential schools. That's the next phase of the Indian problem. The idea of them calling us savages is because what they were trying to do is how could I say it? They were trying to find a way to explain why they were doing that. So as you can see, these bastards are calling the Native American Indian people savages. They're saying, well, you know what? If they keep this land, it'll be worthless. You know what I'm saying? You know what? That's exactly what Cortez said about the Aztec people. It's exactly what they said about the Mayan people. They did the same thing to us. They said they're savages. You know, they can't keep this land because they're not civilized. But let me tell you something. We're obviously more civilized than they were, by far. Chariash, let me see. Is Chariash on? My canal, Chariash. Can you hear me? Chariash, let me see. I don't see this brother. Got to get on, canal. And I can't get off my phone. So, all right. Hopefully he'll join me. But, man, yeah, these guys are real bastards. You know what I'm saying? Real bastards. What they did is and then they say, you know, it's what do you say? God's will for them to do this. Oh no, well, it's God's will. It's God's, you know, he's the one who he's the one that designed this for us to, you know, manifest destiny, where God's given people for this. You know, this goes to show you how wicked they are. You know what I'm saying? How wicked this bastard is. This bastard is so wicked, you know, that he'll give an excuse, right, of why he's doing this, of why this is going that way. You know what I mean? But let me tell you, man, there is no way that that the Pope can go up to Canada and talk about forgiveness. Not after what you're seeing here. There is no forgiveness for them. Because what they need to do is, first of all, man, I think blood for blood, right? That's the way it should be, blood for blood. Like, you did this to us, you know, you should end up the same way. You know what I mean? That might heal some wounds for me. You know what I'm saying? See them go out the same way. That might do it for me. But with all the riches that you took, with all the money and everything that you've inherited, because you not only inherited all that gold, oh, here we go. Okay, Khan, let me get this real quick. Hey, shalom, y'all, about Shimi Shabbat.
Shalom, Yabashim Shabbat. Hey, Shalom Shabbat.
Oh, shalom. Okay. I can barely see both of you, but man, welcome to the show. If you guys can turn the camera the other way, turn your phone the other way, should jump on real quick and get you right.
Do the rotate.
Go rotate that. All right. Shalom, y'all, about Shimi Shabbat. Adawan Hazayan. The water for jumping on the show, Adawan. So we're talking about the Pope going up, talking about, you know, that he wants to be asking for forgiveness. And he said the Christian church, but he never said the Catholic church. The Catholics, like I was explaining, the same thing that happened to my Native American Indian carnales also happened to the Hispanic native of California. Because remember, California is native Latino, native Mexican, native raza. That's California. All up and down California, Arizona, Nevada, these states, even Texas, it's all Mexican territory at one time. It's known as Sonora. If you don't know what Sonora is a state closest to this. Actually, there's a story, right, that runs around in Mexico about Geronimo. And it said that Geronimo was born in Sonora, even though his parents were Garay, native Indian. But he was birthed in the state of Mexico, Sonora. And one of the things about this guy is that he was an enemy to the white man. Just as Pancho Villa also, if you don't know, Pancho Villa is also native Indian. He was also enemy to them because in the blood that they had, they knew why they hated the white man. They knew what their hate was all about. Before we go on, I want to welcome you to the show, to Water for Jumping On. You know what I'm saying? You guys are coming from Chicago, correct?
Khan, so Officer Carl Yash, of course. And I got Officer Lumgabar joining in with me. Come on, that black and brown. As always, I don't want the water for having us on.
Okay, Khan, good, man. And today, you know, our show is based on the Pope going up to Canada to ask for forgiveness for what is it, 500 years, 600 years of committing atrocities on our Native American Indian brothers and sisters. And I hate to use the word Native American because to put that word American in front of Mexican is a dishonor. To put that word American in front of black is a dishonor. To put that word American in front of Indian is another dishonor. I could never call myself Mexican American. That would be like dishonoring my people using that phrase, Mexican American. You know what I'm saying? It's like calling myself Hebrew American. Hell no. Never gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Go on and jump in on it, brother Carnal. Go ahead, jump in on it.
If I could, so what you bring out is so heavy, because as you know, I'm a Native American, and seeing that disgusting display of trying to ask, like not even like it was all a setup out of one. Like he wasn't genuine about none of that. He went out there, cried some crocodile tears, said, I'm sorry for years of genocide, for years of destruction. And we're so willing to forgive, you know, the Pope, so willing to forgive the Catholic Church. So we're like, there was Native Americans crying. Like there was Native Americans willing to forgive, but we're not willing to forgive that brother that owes us $2,000. We're not willing to forgive our fathers, our mothers that walked out of our lives. We're not willing to forgive our brothers and sisters, our drug addicts that stole from us. Like us and the Native American brothers on the Native American reservation, we're so hateful against each other, but we were so ready to forgive this devil for years of destruction. Like everybody always talks about the Catholic Church, the Bible, Christianity, always talks about religions, and that's the oppressor of religions. But once he was right there in front of them, not a thing was done. Hands were shaking. They kissed his hand. You know, this was just a show that those brothers that put their headdress on them, that they are still servants to our oppressor. Unlike here in the ISUPK, we are free men, if I could.
Right. Con, absolutely. Brother, you got anything to say? Go ahead. I'm gonna set up my camera here real quick.
If I could, just real quick, you know, it was such a disgusting thing to see that this devil was presented, if I'm not mistaken, Carias, with a headpiece, Native American Indian headpiece, right. Something that is glorified as a chief, a wardrobe, right?
Yeah, right.
If I'm not mistaken. And this is this is your enemy. Right. The Pope is your mortal enemy, almost to like a lion to a hyena.
Right.
And you presented this man with a traditional headpiece as if this is your ally. And you know, it's just something so disgusting that our people is so destroyed in the mind, knowing that this white man has killed over 77 million North American Indians. And you present him with the highest prestige. You know, it's just something so amazing to me that our people are so dumbfounded and astonished in this land that present your enemy with the highest achievement that you can give culturally. You know,
if I could, sir, if I could, I'd want Kazaki Salagia, sir. The heaviest thing that I saw about this, many of our Native American brothers, you know, a lot of black people, they can trace their lineage. A lot of black people, and this is the truth, have Native American in their blood. Of course, we know throughout the history of our life here in America, we took in, both as Native Americans and black people, we took each other in. We dwelled with each other. We lived with each other, had marriages amongst each other. And the most evilest thing is what our oppressor did was divide us.
Yeah.
If it would have been a black man, a nigga put on a headdress on national TV, there would have been riots. Yeah. The Native Americans, they would have been there, man, take that off. You not Native, you know, this, and there would have been fires in the streets.
Yeah.
But they put this headdress on the Pope, on a white man. So, and then it's okay. There's not a problem with that. It's all fine. Because he's the Pope, he said some crocodile tears and he apologized. But black brothers out there trying to find their heritage, trying to find their way of life, they put a feather in their ear, or they put some feather in their braids, and Native Americans are ready to up and fight with this brother and argue with him about it because he looked dark-skinned. Like that's the thing that's so evil, that they accept these cats went out there, and these sellout Uncle Tomahawk cats went out there and accepted him, the head of the biggest religious organization that murdered your people, the biggest gang, cartel, terrorist organization that destroyed your people, and you adorned him with one of the greatest honors on the face of the earth. Like, come on, Salagia, sir.
Man, no, you absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, when you see this, you know, like I go to a lot of the, you know, Aztec, you know, events, stuff like that. I like seeing the heritage. You know what I mean? I know, you know, sometimes I go out to these events and, you know, I'm trying to push, letting people know, letting my people know, you know, we really, we Hebrews, you know, we Hebrew Israelites, and, you know, we from a Hebrew lineage. And the problem is that I get the feedback from my own raza. Oh, no, man, we ain't Hebrews, you know, this and that. And they want to come against me, because I try to explain to them, and with our own history, because you know I'm deep in my history, I'll present them with the history of our people and how we connect to the Hebrew culture. And I'll even bring historical facts. I'll even show them how the own conquistadores also said, you know, these are Hebrews, man. They got the customs, they got the tradition, they got the superstition of Hebrews. And when I try to do that, man, they'll come against me. And they'll hold sacred that eagle headpiece, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They'll hold sacred that the whole outfit. And then you see this, right? You see this here, and you realize how lost our people are, because that headpiece right there is like us giving some devil at camp my headpiece because he kissed my foot, my boot, and in return I'm like, okay, let me give you my headpiece as a you know, as a kind of exchange of gratitude for what you did. Hell no, that could never happen. You know what I'm saying? This Pope, what's happening here is that these men, you know, did you see the video I just played? Did y'all see the video I just played? Okay. You know, the same Indians, the same chiefs sat at the table with them 500 years ago, 400 years ago, and broken promises over and over and over again. The same thing that happened 500 years ago happened 2 days ago.
Damn right.
Where they sat, they gathered at their goddamn houses or White Houses or wherever they gathered, and they all gathered with the same monster that destroyed them, and they shook his hand. That handshake was a slap in the face to Native American Indian brothers and sisters back then, and it's in a slap in the face today. How are you going to sit there and do this all over again and think that it's going to be okay? You know what happens? That's how you know our people are so lost. That's how you know that this that's happening today of gathering Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians under one banner, the ISUPK, that's how you know this is the truth. Because you come into this truth and you know you can never forgive that enemy, ever. Because the Bible tells us that vengeance is of the Lord. And what is vengeance? Vengeance is to come back and fight or do harm or do something for something that happened in the past. Isn't that what vengeance is? Someone does something to me today, I'm going to come back a week, 2 weeks or something to get vengeance, to get back at this guy for whatever he did to me. That's what the Lord's going to do. He's going to come back and take vengeance on these devils for what they did to us 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 2 decades ago, man, a decade ago. Yesterday, my brother dying in the streets of America, shot in the back by a white cop. Now, that's what vengeance is going to be all about. Salaki, go ahead, brother. You can.
If I could, sir, and only if I could, what you bringing out is so heavy because the Christian church is the richest organization on this planet Earth. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they make $80 million a year. And here's the heaviest thing about all this. The Pope, the Catholic Church, Christianity, they got rich by stealing everything off the Native American Indians, the Hispanics, and Black people here in America by stealing everything from us. If the Pope wanted to really apologize, really to show he was sorry for it, why didn't he give back everything he stole from us? Why didn't he get back on that mic and say, you know what, you gotta give the Native American Indians back their land? Or we fighting for the cause? Why didn't he put money in to help with our missing indigenous sisters that are going missing and murdered all throughout Canada, all throughout the reservations in America? All our people that are suffering off drug abuse from every reservation from here to South Dakota. Why didn't he do anything like that? He literally got on that mic and grabbed it and said, you know what, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I humbly ask, that y'all forgive me. And everybody lost their minds and went up there and they put the headdress, like what you saying, Adawan, is so heavy. We're so destroyed. Like we got so much Stockholm syndrome that we can't realize like this is just another trap we walking into. You got anything you want to say, sir?
If I could, just real quick, you know, it's just like our people are so damn destroyed that we don't believe that we worthy of vengeance.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? My Ottawa Kazakh Yah was just bringing out vengeance is of the Lord, but our people are so destroyed. We don't think we worthy of vengeance.
Right.
We don't think that 177 million North American Indians being killed, that's something worthy of being vengeance.
Right.
You know what I mean? We just is so accepting the American society and the American way that we're going to put a headdress on a pope, knowing that these conquistadors are the ones that destroyed my ancestors, knowing that these are the same people that put my brothers, my uncles, and sisters in boarding schools, cut their hair off, and raped them.
That's right.
Rape them physically and spiritually in their culture.
That's right.
We don't think that we worthy of vengeance. You know, this is something that just have to change in America. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, we are a special people.
That's right.
And we have to believe that we are something. We worth something. We worth something. You know what I mean? And we definitely damn sure worth you know what I mean, vengeance and justice. That's something that's escaped our people, especially Native American Indians. Native American Indians are so destroyed on these reservations, you know what I mean, sniffing paint just to relieve the oppression of reality. Native American Indians, they are worthy of vengeance. The things, the atrocities that happened to them today, livestock being destroyed, the buffalo being destroyed, they land being taken away from them and being forced on concentration camps. The reservation is not no goddamn reservation. That is a concentration camp where you don't have access to clean water. You don't have access to food. You don't have access to life.
If I could, sir, if I could, Ottawa, in the winter, we just went out to the Menominee Reservation. ISUPK Res, we sold it out. Officer Awalum of Gary, Indiana, he was out there with us. You know, we put in the work under Officer DeBar Moth, went up there to the Menominee Reservation, and the people were so much in need and so thankful. And you can just see that the inhabitants of this land, the people that have a right to this land, that this is their God-given land, how they've been mistreated here in America is so disgusting. Like people were coming out in the snow to receive jackets and boots and house shoes. Little children are out there, and you know, shoeless. Like it felt like we was in Mexico or Puerto Rico, which is the same thing. Like all Mexico, Puerto Rico, America, Canada, all of our people are struggling, and we are the people that originally owned this land. And we want to sit here and accept the Pope and act like the Pope. Man, the hell with the Pope, man. The hell with Christianity. The hell with the Catholic Church. We got to get back together as one people, the North American Indian, the so-called Hispanic, and the so-called Black man. We got to be together as one once again, as the Lord prescribed. Damn right.
Man, absolutely, absolutely. And let me go into a little bit of the video again. Man, what we're speaking here is fire. You know why? Because this needs to be said. I see a lot of, on my end, I have a lot of Chicano podcasts that I'm watching, and they're too worried about the Cholo culture in America and in East LA and this, and they're overlooking the true problem. And the true problem is the discrimination, the random hate for Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians from all races that come against us. We're watching this video, and I'm seeing they were talking about how there was Indians, right? There was Indians who the government would come and bribe to take the land from their people. And there was a lot of chiefs. Obviously, they were chiefs or they were high-ranking, right? Or elders, as they call them, who played into the game of going ahead and doing that. You know, today we see the same thing with the Native American Indian tribes giving up their land for casinos on their reservations. You know, we see it all across America now. We see a lot of casinos coming up, and you think the Native Indians are the ones handling the casinos, and they're the ones doing it. But I personally know, they're called Gabrielinos. Gabrielino is an Indian tribe here in California, in LA area, in my area, and it's called the San Gabriel Valley, which is the Gabrielinos, and they got some casinos out here that just so happen to be part of their tribe. But let me tell you something. I know a lot of the brothers in there, and they don't look like they're prospering from this casino deal that they got. Because the brothers that I hang out with, I got a couple of sisters, a couple of brothers that are real close friends with me and my wife. And I see them, and I question it all the time. Because, hey, I'm not going to lie, I like going to the casino. You know what I'm saying? Me and my rib, we like going to the casino. But I'm always over there, and I see a lot of paintings on the walls for the Gabrielinos and the California Indians. But then I turn around and see Asians working in there. I see a lot of other nations working in there. I see a lot of Hispanics. You know, it's Hispanics, man. We're going to get a job no matter where you put us.
Damn right.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't see any of my Native American Indian brothers or sisters working in those casinos. But I also don't see a lot of my Native American Indian brothers prospering off of the casinos. What I do see is I keep in touch with it, grabbing their magazine that they pull out all the time to try to use propaganda to show how the Native Indian community prospers from the casino. But in the reality, when we see the history of how our brothers sell out, because that's what they do, they're selling out to prosper themselves, but not their nation. You know what I'm saying? So in that sense, when we see this video, that has been going on for 500 years. That's why our people are still in the Indian reservation. We know that the Native American Indians fought in World War II. They were the code talkers. They won the war for America, but yet they still came back to suffer on the reservation and still struggle for their so-called equal right as Native Indian people. Go ahead.
If I could, sir, what you saying is so heavy, because what we just saw with the Pope and because they had Native American brothers doing that, you know, they're the ones who put the headdress on them.
Mm-hmm.
You best believe them niggas getting a check. You best believe every one of them is getting, like, they looked at, like, you can look at them when they first putting it on them, like they almost didn't want to do it. Like something in their spirit was like, this ain't right. But you know what? They overlooked all that, because I bet money they was getting money put in their books for that. All sitting there with the Pope, getting all this photo ops and everything. It's to uplift themselves. That's why, if I could, so what the scriptures say, the pastors, they have destroyed my vineyards. These cats right here, they're not fit to lead the Native American Indians. They're not fit to lead the reservation. They're not fit to lead the Native American communities. Like, it's a big thing amongst the Native American communities that our chiefs and councils, our councilmen and women, those that are empowering our governments, are getting checks and money that's supposed to be going into the reservation. They're hiding it in their pockets. And you best believe these cats are doing the same thing, that the Pope and all them slid them funds to put that headdress on. Now you gotta understand, like, this is, like you said, on the one, this was a slap in the face to the Native American Indians. And we gotta realize, and this to all the brothers and sisters out there, you don't have to be okay with this. You don't have to sit by and idolize and just twiddle your fingers as they put this headdress on this Pope. You don't have to sit here and be okay with it. If you're a brother or sister out there that's a Native American and you got a problem with it, it's okay to have a problem with it. It's righteous to have a problem with it. The creator of all things living has a problem with it. The most high power has a problem with it. And when Christ comes back, ain't no oppressor gonna be wearing no headdress. You got anything to say, sir?
Yeah, if I could, just real quick. Yeah, I mean, I just want to crystallize a point. Yeah, I mean, what happened right here in this situation is the same thing that happens in the black community.
Right.
We got sellout preachers that would, cleave to white people.
Right.
They cleave to white people once Trayvon Martin get killed.
That's right.
They cleave to white people once Freddie Gray gets shot down in the street.
Right.
And the same thing happens between blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. You see the same thing. The same occurrences happen. Our people cleave to our oppressors, and it's such a amazing thing to show the comparisons that blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, the things that we go through in life, we are the same people.
That's right.
We are the same people. You know what I mean? Whether it's with Catholicism, with the Hispanics, Native American Indians,
or the Native American church.
The Native American church, you got Christianity with black people, but you know what I mean? It's the same devices. It's the exact same thing. I mean, I just want to bring out that point to show that we are the same people. What the Native American Indians did with this Pope, it's the same thing that Christian pastors do with white politicians.
That's right.
It's the same exact thing.
That's right.
Con, absolutely. We got Malakma in, Malakma ISUPK out of
Damn
California.
right. Damn right.
In. Salam, Malakma. You got something to throw out, Malakma? Go ahead, jump in real quick. Oh man, I can't hear you, Malakma. Your mic is out. You got to get your mic on, Malakma. I still can't hear you, Malakma. Let's see what's going on with your mic. I know you're on my side, but while you get that started, let me get in here real quick. So let me tell you something. What's happening here is that, man, we're understanding how important it is. Malakma, I still can't hear you, Malakma. Just to let you know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Malakma? And it is your mic, Malakma, because we can hear everybody else. We just can't hear you. Let me unmute your mic again. Mute themselves. Okay.
Like,
I just love it. Okay, I got you now.
Come, I was gonna say what y'all been bringing out is heavy, right? And what I wanted to add, right, to what Officer Karyash and the other brother, the other one, was bringing out, right, about the hope, right, and wearing the headdress, is that it's an outrage and it's offensive on our end. And I'm gonna say why, because of the intense scrutiny that our people put on us, right? Our people come at us, talk about where we're committing indigenous erasure and we're, supposedly appropriating indigenous culture. When we tell, indigenous people that they're Israelites, when we tell our raza that they're Israelites, right? So they accuse us of indigenous erasure. And then at the same time, you got the actual entity of indigenous erasure right there with that Catholic Pope receiving a headdress, right, a war bonnet. So my question is, make it make sense, man. You're gonna say we are erasing indigenous identity and whatnot when you got the exact embodiment of what literally tried to erase Native Americans right there, and you giving him a headdress. You know what I mean? So it just shows you how destroyed and knowledge our people are. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I brought it out on Monday, but I'm gonna say it like this: can you imagine the outrage from the victims from the families of the victims of 9/11? Had Osama bin Laden been alive today, apologized for 9/11, and the president went and put a Purple Heart on Osama bin Laden. You can only imagine the outrage, from the victims, from any Edomite that's patriotic, right, that loves America. You can imagine their outrage and their disgust. Well, that's no different with what took place with the Pope. And he did that on purpose. He did that so that he can, show a mockery to Native Americans, to the raza. Because he didn't go to Mexico. He didn't go to Mexico and apologize out there, right?
Right.
But he went up there, right? Well, was it? I don't remember the story, sir. But was it Mexico called out the Catholic Church to apologize for the atrocities they did?
Son, that's exactly what happened. The president of Mexico had a conversation with Spain and them, and they asked to apologize for the atrocities committed on the Aztec people during the conquest, and they refused to give an apology. They said it wasn't necessary, like saying that they had done Mexico a favor by doing that, by conquering them. And so in that sense, you're telling me you did them a favor by committing atrocities on my people. That's kind of like the point they made. They did them a favor by doing that. That's ridiculous. I'm gonna tell you something, man. When we look at what's happening here, you got to understand how deep this goes. Because what you're seeing here is that this Pope didn't go to, let's say, a city, or didn't go to a state, or didn't go to Indian land, right? He didn't go to Indian land. Like, he didn't come to East LA. where it's all Hispanic brothers and sisters. Where he went was to an Indian reservation, an Indian community that was a reservation where he went to speak on these things. In other words, he went to visit them in the same place that their oppressor had designated for them to be put in, almost like a concentration camp type thing for them. They have never been able to leave that area. That's been their designated spot, not because they chose it, but because an enemy, an oppressor chose that for them. So how are you going to go and apologize there? You know what? It should have been, first of all, the Canadian community, right? The Canadian government knew about because you know why he's doing this. Let me give you some insight of why he's doing this apology. He's doing this apology because over these last 3 or 4 or 5 years, they've been uncovering multiple sites of burial grounds for children close to the boarding schools or the residential schools. And they've been popping up like crazy, finding thousands of bodies of children that have been buried in these sites, unmarked sites, unmarked graves. It would just so happen, Salaki, let me put these brothers back on. It just so happens that this is the reason why. This is the reason why the Pope had to go up to Canada and give this apology. Because if you don't know, prior to this, 2, 3, 4, 5 years prior to this, they have been finding multiple sites of children burial grounds with unmarked burial grounds with thousands of children that were found from the boarding schools. And it was such an outrage that the Native American Indian community up the Indian community up in Canada started to address the Canadian government about these places. And they were asking for like reparations and things like that. And what happened is that the Canadian government decided, well, yeah, we're going to acknowledge it. But in the long run, they didn't acknowledge nothing. They gave nothing back to them. And what they were doing is they were skipping along to try to avoid paying any damages to any of the Native communities. So it's been going on so deep that now what they're doing is that now they realize, well, shoot, the Native American Indian community, they're finding these burial sites. So the Pope, in their whole, public relations bit, they suggested you need to go out there, show face, and apologize for all the burial sites they're finding. If you read up on why he got out there, the Pope didn't go out there because he wanted to. The Pope didn't come up with the idea, oh, let me go apologize. That was not his bit. Prior to him going out there was a news article that was printed where they were talking about that some of the Catholic community, some of the priests, some of the public relations people were starting to tell the Pope, you need to go out there and make a presentation and apologize for this. The Pope didn't decide one day, oh, look what's happening. He's not keeping up with the news. He don't give a damn about that news. He didn't give a shit about it. Downright. He didn't give a shit about it. He's being told you need to go out there and do the apology, a formal apology. That's why all this is going through. Because of public relations, the Catholic Church needs to do, because of all the grave sites that are being found up in Canada of buried children, unmarked graves in multiple schools that have been closed down for years. And now they're trying to rebuild those areas by reforesting them. And these things are coming up. The skeletons in the closet of the Catholic Church are coming back to haunt them. And if those skeletons are theirs, so is the gold, so is all the money they stole, so is all the slave labor, so are all the atrocities, and so is everything else that comes along with everything the Catholic Church has inherited, along with the white man included in all this. You know what I'm saying? Jump in at any time you want, brothers. Salakia. You know I'm gonna do this. Anybody got anything?
Con, sir, if I could,
Go ahead.
what you saying, like always, I don't want it just so heavy. I want to see if I can get brother to pull scripture, if you don't mind, real quick, sir.
Go ahead.
Con, hey, look, come, you want to pull the scripture for us? Let's get, what do I want? Okay, if I could get the book of Job, 12 verse 6. Because I don't want what you just saying is there's no bigger thief on this earth than our oppressor, the colonizer, the conquistador, the devil that the Bible speaks of.
Right.
There is no bigger devil on the planet earth than him. He's the robber, the thief. Like Christ said in the Bible, the thief cometh not but only to kill and destroy. This devil is so evil, man. And he stole this land from the North American Indians. Not only did he steal that, sir, but he stole our culture. There's so many $5 Indians out there today. It's ridiculous. Blue-eyed white devils out there claiming Native American heritage, telling brothers like me, telling brothers that look like Awalum, that look like Lakumyala, that they not Native American because they look a certain shade, or they don't look the right way, or they don't got their Indian papers, man. They forefathers paid their way. But this is what the Lord said about that.
Job 12 verse 6.
Go ahead.
The tabernacles of robbers.
The what?
The tabernacles of robbers.
The Lord said the tabernacles of robbers. Go ahead.
Prosper.
They what?
They prosper.
America is that tabernacles of robbers. And here in this place, they prosper. How do they prosper? The Pope goes on national TV by the same people he enslaved, and they adorn him on the head. They sit there and they show their allegiance to the Catholic Church, to the Christian Church, to white supremacy by adorning on him the one holy thing they got. The Native Americans, us as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, just in general, we don't have a lot of things holy anymore. There's not a lot of things that we can say it's our own. But when it comes to the Native American Indians, our regalia, our traditional apparel, that's something that we've kept even through all the boarding schools and destruction. When you think fringes, you think of Native Americans. Braids down by the side, you think of natives. The headdresses, you think of Native Americans. And this cat put it on. Why? Go ahead, Lacombe.
And they that provoke the Most High.
And they that what?
Provoke the Most High.
And y'all best believe what he did this day. What he did when he put that headdress on, he provoked the Lord. Go ahead.
Are secure.
Or what?
Are secure.
He's sitting up there in a safe space. And everybody want to talk about decolonization, give the land back, anti-white supremacy, hell with the churches. But ain't no harm come to the Pope. No, everybody was up there. They wanted to do all these protests and speak out against them. Nobody was protesting that day. Yeah, had grown men up there crying, kissing his hand, loving him like he's some guy, like he's someone to be respected, when the Christian church is rich because of our enslavement. They're rich because of the enslavement of the North American Indians, of the Chicanos, of the Raza, of the Guatemalans, of the Puerto Ricans, of the Salvadorians, of the Mohawk Indians, of the Choctaw, of the Lakota, of the Dakota, of our holy people who the Lord God loved. Ain't more on that, Lacombe? Go ahead.
And to whose hand the Most High bringeth abundance.
Go ahead.
But now ask the beast.
But what?
But now ask the beast.
Go ahead.
And they shall teach thee.
Everything the Lord showed in this land, you can see here on the planet Earth. Our oppressor has destroyed everything. He destroyed that dodo bird is extinct. Platypus is extinct. The earth is a wasteland. It's desolate. There's a hole in the ozone layer because now he's running this earth. Because the Vatican, the church, our oppressors are running this earth. What you saying, I don't want is so on point because these people are just money-grubbing thieves and devils, and they're going to be removed out their place like Christ prescribed in the Bible for the love of our brothers, for the love of the North American Indians, for the love of the black man, for the love of the Hispanic man, for the Creator's chosen people, which are the Native American Indians.
Right.
In the kingdom of heaven, ain't no devil gonna be pointing on no headdress. Not gonna be no priest apparel. You best believe he's not gonna be wearing a shield. I pray we all understand. You got anything to say, sir? Come on. That's it on us, sir.
No, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Malakman, you got something to throw in?
Khan, if I could, to Priest and Officer Kayash, man. Salaki, sir, God forbid you tell them they're Israelite. All hell breaks loose. You gonna, you gonna put the headdress on the Pope, man, and that's heavy. You brought that out, that they talking about decolonization and not following Christianity and the Catholic Church, and they just proved how much they're still Christians. That's why we say in the ISUPK, right? Like everything outside of here is just another form of Christianity. Even you gente indígena and the raza, a lot of y'all that want to claim that y'all about decolonization and you're not Christians, you're still Christians, man. Because it could be the same situation over there, and you'll show, you'll be happy about it. You'll be up in tears of joy and respecting the suppressor. Meanwhile, I tell you an Israelite, you tell me I'm trying to erase your native identity. I'm a threat to your native tribe. I'm a threat. What is it? I'm a quote unquote black colonizer when I tell you you're God's chosen people and you're an Israelite. But an actual colonizer, you show him love. So like Hosea 4:6 says, our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. That's what it is, man. We just destroyed, literally destroyed, man. I never understood that precept, until I came to the ISUPK, and now till I'm literally seeing it before my eyes. Because there's another part to that, man. I don't know if y'all seen all the excitement right from the raza, right, about the new Black Panther movie that's coming out, because they're depicting a character that's supposed to be a Mayan god, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's excited. They think it's some kind of representation. I mean, I don't know how the movie's going to turn out, but you already know, it being Esau, that's not going to be a movie that's meant to uplift indigenous people or empower them. It's meant to keep them asleep, and that's just to show where our spirit is. Like, we get excited about movies, shit that's fantasy, and when the actual issues plague us, man, like we turn the other way, when we don't even bother to pay attention to it. And we get mad over things that are, irrelevant, like that whole situation with Tiger last week. And I understand, right, like what he did was wrong, and it was disrespectful to the Raza. But what I'm not seeing today, right now, is the same anger and outrage from the Raza towards the Pope, man. I'm not seeing these podcasters, calling out the Catholic Church, calling out the Pope, telling the Raza to leave that Catholic Church for what happened to our, our indigenous brothers, right, from the north, right? Because from the north to the south, we want people. But that's the thing, man. Like, all of a sudden, like, the energy's not the same, because we're still, like I said, we're still colonizing the mind, man. We still love this country, man. Like, the reason why we can't accept that we're Israelites and why we hate our black brothers and sisters when they tell us we're Israelites is because we love this oppressor. We respect this oppressor. But our brothers and sisters, we don't, man. And that's what's evident. These oppressors know that. And that's why the Pope knew, like Officer Kazak got brought out, he knew he could go over there and do that, man, and get away with it. And that right there, like, just should show. Like, I expect, man, in good spirits, man, for I would expect, and I would pray that our people would leave that Catholic Church, would leave the Christian Church after what went down, man, with this Pope. But Salaki.
All right, man. Go ahead.
Slicer, if I could, what the brother was just bringing up was so heavy. You know what I mean? I don't see our oppressor putting propaganda out about Chinese people.
Right.
I don't see our oppressor putting out this same type of propaganda about Africans. I don't see it, but I do see, Marvel coming out with movies about Neymar imitating the Aztec and Mayan people. I do see Wakanda perpetrating, giving so-called African Americans hope. I see these type of things befalling the Hispanics and the blacks and the North American Indians, but I don't see this tactic being used for other nations. You know what I mean? And it's so evident that we the same people, because I just got to go back to it. We are living through the same devices. We living through the same type of propaganda.
That's right. we living through the same type of mental torture. You know what I mean? The so-called Hispanics having a culture destroyed, having to, you know what I mean, pretty much dig into the earth and find out who was the Aztecs, who was the Mayans, the so-called black man. You don't have a goddamn clue who the hell you were.
Right.
The so-called North American Indians, you have to dig into the earth to find out what your culture was. I don't see this with the Chinese. I don't see this with the Africans. I don't see this with the East Indians. But when it comes to the black Hispanics and North American Indians, I see this all day. You know what I mean? And it's such a powerful thing that Commander Juliana has held on to this truth and allowed us to see the connection between blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians. And it's such a powerful thing. If I could, just real quick, quick sidebar. When I was in the world, I had a special connection. I believe Judah just got a special connection with Ishkar.
Right.
My best friends in the world was Hispanics. You know what I mean? I never felt weird when Hispanics said the word nigga.
Right.
It just felt like another nigga saying the word nigga.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was until I came into the truth when I found out why that special connection was there, because we are of the same bloodline. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just want to harp on that point that the things that the Hispanics is going through is the same thing that the black man is going through. The same thing that the black man is going through is the same thing that the North American Indian is going through.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And we are the same people. And it's only in the ISUPK where this truth and knowledge was pushed out and pushed into the earth. I just, you know what I mean, if I could, slight, sir, I just want to bring that out.
Man, no sweat. No, absolutely, man. That's what we're here for. We're here to share, you know, what we used to not be able to understand. Coming into the UPK, we've been able to really, you know, see what's really going on, both in the black community and the Hispanic community, and now we're adding the Native American Indian community. Because I'll tell you something, as a Hispanic brother growing up in black neighborhoods, you know, South Central and, you know, these areas, I always thought it was just about black and Hispanics. You know what I mean? I always thought the Native American Indian community was just some other, you know, community that had nothing to do with us. And it's not until you come into the UPK that you begin to realize, well, damn, it's all of us. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you something. And today we are speaking about these brothers, the Native American Indians, no matter how they feel about it. Because, you know, a lot of Native American Indians or these so-called Native American Indians, they got this thing about blacks and they got this thing about Hispanics. You know what I'm saying? But that's what we're here for. We're here to build a bridge that we can all come across and meet halfway, that we can do something about it. Because let me tell you something. The boarding school system was a crime against humanity, an assault on the First Nations people. That's what it was. And the only crime that they ever committed as children was being born indigenous. That was the crime that they had. The crime that the black man had was being born black. The crime that us Mexican had was being born Hispanic. That was our problem. And this is what we have in common. I'm going to go back to what I was speaking of why the Pope went out there to do this apology. He went out there for 500 years and didn't realize what he was talking about. He didn't apologize for the reservation. He didn't apologize for the broken treaty. He didn't apologize for smallpox. He didn't apologize for the poison rations that they gave the children. He didn't apologize for the religious persecution and the indigenous way of life. He didn't apologize for the alcohol that they put on top of our Native American Indian brothers to destroy their communities, or the prison. Man, he didn't go out there to apologize for the hazardous waste that was dumped on the Native American Indian sites after World War II experimented with nuclear war and nuclear bombs, and all that waste was dumped on their site. He didn't apologize for the murder, and he didn't apologize for the theft. And let me tell you something. They found 751 unmarked graves that were discovered near the former indigenous schools in Canada. I'll tell you what, there was almost 4,000 to 10,000 children that may have died at these schools. That's according to the Smithsonian Institute magazine. They're the ones talking about this. They're the ones saying, and this was 2021 when they were talking about the problem was the combination of torturing conditions, diseases, but they didn't mention the raping, the murdering, the torture that had occurred inside of these boarding schools. They never talked about that. They had a memorial at Queen's Park in Toronto. It was set up in honor of 215 indigenous children that were discovered in unmarked graves in British Columbia. And you know what? They didn't say nothing about that. There were 751 sites that they found. Brother, that's 751 sites of buried children. Back-to-back discoveries in 2021. That's the year these unmarked graves are coming up. And these have been coming around since the 1800s and the 1900s. And let me tell you, a lot of these children died far away from their homes. You know where these sites were found? They were found on the outskirts, right, of the boarding schools. Not on their reservations, not on their land, but outside of the boarding schools. That means that these children never even saw their home. They were killed in the boarding school, and they were just dumped on some site away from the school itself. You know what? Let me tell you something. That Pope deserves a spit in the face for what he did. That Pope had no shame because he did not address the atrocities that were committed on the Native American Indian people. And I'm going to say, yeah, a lot of Native Indians who watch this are going to be like, well, you're not even Native Indian. I don't have to be Native Indian to realize that this that you see here is a hypocritical handshake that you're looking at there. It's the same handshake that was given to the Native American Indian 500 years ago that caused his destruction. That's what that handshake is. And to go in there and beat your drums and do your ceremonies inside of their church is evil and wicked on the part of these Native American Indian people. And to sit there in front of him and listen to his lies and sit there and think that it's going to be okay, let me tell you something, man. To gather with him and walk behind him as he's somebody is a slap in the face to every single generation that died in those boarding schools. Every single child that died on that electric chair that was used, every single child that was molested, that was raped, that was murdered, that was killed. With all these kids, all these elders, whatever they are, that presented themselves at that council 2 days ago, it's a shame. And these children that died, all these people that died at the hands of these pastors are turning around in graves this very moment. There's no word to explain what I'm feeling just watching this. And the reason I feel this, and you out there in the world don't feel it, is because I'm in the ISUPK and I realize that this is a shameful thing and it's a goddamn wickedness on behalf of the Catholic Church. Now, brother, just go in and, you know what I'm saying? Go in on it, man.
If I could, sir. Slay, sir, if I could. Why is it that a mass grave of North American Indians can go unanswered?
That's right.
Why is it that a mass grave of North American Indians can go uncomforted? You know what I mean? Unexplained. Just left alone. Why is that? But as soon as one devil dies in Ukraine, it's flags all over Chicago.
That's right.
It's flags all over the United States. But a whole, I believe Kazak said over 800 of bodies in a mass grave, that can go unanswered for. But as soon as one devil in Europe dies from a civil war, we gotta hang up Ukraine flags everywhere.
Right.
But my brothers, my sisters, and my families, they can be killed and raped, and it can go unanswered for. Salakia.
If I could, sir, Salakia. what Offside Walum is bringing out is so heavy. And let me tell you why this is so evil and so diabolical. Because like he just said, flags go up everywhere for the Ukraine. They don't care, like just like everything else. And it what me and Officer Malakma always have to battle with, since we always on ISBK reservations. Of course, we got Officer Kazaki out helping us out, but we on par with the people. Me and Malakma always in battling with people, always with the discussions and everything. Man, it's always cats want to argue, man, blacks and Native Americans, we not the same. We not the same. Like, well, nigga, explain this to me. How can over, I think they said 30,000 black women went missing last year. Now 25,000 Native American women are going missing that last year. I mean, this year. So if that's the case, how come they're not looking for both of us? A Chinese girl goes missing. There's an Amber Alert out. Everybody out looking for her.
Right.
If there was a mass grave of 8 white babies, man, you forget about it. The whole city's getting burned to the ground. But because they were savages, because they're spics, because they're niggas, no one gives a damn.
If I could,
go ahead, sir.
Real quick. Jeffrey Dahmer, he got caught. Who is the cause of these mass graves of North American Indians? When white people, when they get murdered, everybody gets accounted for.
That's right.
What about my brothers? What about my sisters? What about my mothers and my fathers? Why are they going unaccounted for? America is not your rest. If I could
just
go ahead,
piggyback, just
Salaki.
one last thing. And the saddest part about all of this is these were children. Many of these mass grave sites, they were children. They were little girls and boys. Like we're talking about kids that haven't even reached puberty yet. And they raped them. They molested them. They molested some of them so bad that they died and buried them amongst the graves. They killed them so bad, abused them so bad, they had to hide them away. Like that's what's so evil. So many are like, it's just so evil what these people did. Like these people have no conscience, no soul. Like they have no respect, not only for the earth that we live on, but for the people that were meant to rule this land, the Native American Indians. Like they slaughtered them, and they don't treat nobody else like this. The Hawaiians, they doing okay. The Aborigines of Australia, they all right. The Chinese, the Filipinos, all of them, they getting justice. They getting money sent their way. The Holocaust victims. The Pope went and sat with the Holocaust survivors. But guess what? He didn't tell them to forgive the Germans. He didn't tell them to forgive the Nazis. But he'll sit there and tell the Native American Indians, man, forgive me humbly. I'm so sorry for what has happened, man. Man, if you're so sorry, close the doors of the church, man. Give all that money you took from the Native Americans, all our wealth, everything you stole from us, give it right back. Tell America to give our land back. Tell them to let blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans free. To stop gunning us in the goddamn back. But they don't care about it. Like Outside Walone was saying, blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, we're one people. I don't know how many times it's gonna be like shown. Like this is a perfect way to be shown that they don't care about natives and they don't care about black people. You in the same boat. Now you got to figure out if y'all gonna swim, if y'all gonna hop off the boat, or if y'all gonna drive the boat together. It's a canoe. Think about it. You know, he got one paddle, I got one paddle. Y'all gonna use your heads and go together and try to get out of this problem, or you gonna sink and die. Well, you got anything else, sir? That's it, sir. It's a lot. So good.
Now you got one right there. No sweat. I said, like, if I could to add to what y'all brothers is bringing out, you know, to Officer Awalam and Officer Karyash, man, that's heavy because it's the truth, man. Like, they do not care about us. The number of missing indigenous women, the number of missing black women, the number of missing, you know, his so-called Hispanic women, right? Like,
right.
It's not bright, you know, like nobody, you know, like cares about it, you know. But let a Edomite, let a white woman go missing, let an Asian woman go missing. You know what's heavy is right now you're seeing how these other communities are protected, man. Like look at the whole thing with the monkeypox outbreak. They're doing everything they can to make sure the LGBTQ community doesn't get demonized for it, man. They even giving them the vaccines and everything. Same thing with COVID.
Give me 1 second. I'm trying to turn the sound back on. We kind of went out on the sound a little bit, but I'm going to try to get it back on. Go ahead, Malakma. Continue. I think we can hear you.
Okay, concert. Now I was saying like how these other communities are protected. You know, like I said, the whole monkeypox thing, they're doing everything they can to make sure the LGBTQ community does not get demonized for it. You know what I mean? They're doing everything. When COVID struck, with the beginning of COVID, right, they did everything they could to make sure the Asian community
Sean,
did
absolutely.
not get targeted.
I understand. I'm trying to get this back on.
So you see the difference, man, because you have nothing gets done to make sure that we are not demonized, that we are not mocked, man, that we have a good, that we get the respect we deserve as a nation of people, man. This oppressor has no respect for us, man, and the reason why is because of sellouts, because of Uncle Toms, Tio Tomases, and Uncle Tomahawks who go and love these oppressors when they spit in our faces. You can thank that whole philosophy, from the Christian church, right? That teaches us to literally turn the other cheek, man. When they try to, when they slap us in the face, that's what that is, man. And it's no different, man. The disgust of the Pope getting the headdress is no different than when you see that Mexican flag fused in with the American flag. When you see somebody, raza claiming to be Mexican American. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing, man. Like, it's just disgusting and outrageous, man. And it's a mockery, man. And, man, that's why I say, man, Most High in Christ for the ISUPK and their Commander General Yohana, because this truth is the only thing that's truly going to decolonize your mind. In here, in the ISUPK and their Commander General Yohana, we really are about colonization. Because a lot of y'all, like the other one brought out, like our talk about decolonization and talk about not being, Christian and whatnot, but none of y'all are willing to give up birthdays. None of y'all are willing to stop, aborting your babies, because that's another thing, right? And that's one thing I brought out last week, like in the show, like everyone got outraged by the Tiger video, but no one gets outraged by the number of black and brown babies that are murdered every day at the hands of America, right? Nobody's outraged, right? Like the indigenous community, right? All those kids as you brought out, I don't want, like no one's outraged about that, but we are. We mention it. We bring that out. That needs to be called out. You know what I mean? Because a music video, yeah, it's disrespectful. Yeah, a movie where we're portrayed wrong is hella disrespectful. But at the end of the day, like our babies are dying every day, man, and that's not being called out. Our black and brown women want to support that and talk about my body, my choice. Not learning the history of where all that comes from, how they literally murdered our babies, how they literally put that in their plans, right, with the eugenics program, with Planned Parenthood, to get us to kill our babies, man. And our black and brown women really want us to, be out there supporting it, man. And at the same time, you got the alphabet community also that's literally showing their hatred of black and brown women and appropriating black and brown women, and they're not getting mad about it. Black and that the raza's not outraged about all these other movements, at the atrocities they do. But let it be one of our own that does, and now all of a sudden it's a problem. Now all of a sudden it's World War III. But when it's these other nations, man, it's all love and it's all good, and we gotta forgive them. You know what I mean? We can't fight hate with hate. All that nonsense, man, that comes from that Christian church. Salak, I'll get the floor back, man.
If I could, Malakma, if I could, Ottawa, if I could, real quick.
All right, Salakia, real quick, just to let you know, my mic went out, my speaker went out, but real quick, going back, Malakma, I kind of missed it a little bit, trying to get back on here. For some reason, my sound went out, but man, I wanted to read a little bit more on this, on the Native American Indian schools. Can y'all hear me? Everything good? Gone? Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to read one more thing on this Native American Indian school, and you guys can comment on it while I get myself together. Okay, so I was gonna speak on the children who were students at the residential boarding schools from about the 1800s to the 1900s, and who, like I said, had died away from their homes, right, after suffering brutal abuse and neglect for decades, right? Both indigenous children, not only in Canada, but in the United States. And this is the point I wanted to make. So y'all brothers can jump in after this. One of the things that was common during the Native American Indian, how they said what was that? The Indian problem was that they were taken away from their families to be sent to the boarding schools. That was common. They'd go out, they'd take their children from the families, and they put them in these boarding schools. And as you can tell, that the black and the Hispanic, we went through the same thing as these Native American Indian brothers and sisters. What we went through was the taking away of our children, even to this day, the taking away of our children. When we saw this was during the detention centers, how they were separating our families and taking our children away, right, from Hispanic brothers and sisters and putting them into foster homes. And that's the same thing that happened to our black brothers and sisters when they were brought to America and they were sold and separated from their families, right? And they did the same thing to the Native American Indian brothers throughout what is that? 2 decades of separating these families from their mothers and fathers. So what happened to them? They took them away and were forced to assimilate into a Euro-American culture, because that's what really happened. They were forcing them to assimilate into an American culture. Imagine that. I said at the beginning of the program, I would never want to be called Mexican American, because the word American is for you to assimilate into a culture that has forced you and your children to take up their ways, of life, to pull you away from who you are so that you can become a nation that's murderous, destructive, envious. What is that? Capitalism is nothing but greed. That's what it really is. That's probably the definition of capitalism, greed. And that's what America is. They'll do anything to prosper themselves, even if it means destroying our people. And that's what happened to us. We learned to destroy our own people in order to prosper in America. And that's why I always say, man, I always say this, carnales. I always say the American dream is the Latin American nightmare. That's what that really is. That's what it turned out to be for us, a Latin American nightmare. Malakma, you want to go ahead? Go ahead, Malakma. I'm going to try to figure this out. Go ahead.
So like, sir, no sweat. Just that's heavy, sir, that you said that the American dream is our
I'm
life.
still trying to connect to this damn Bluetooth. Let me try to disconnect and connect again. Go ahead, Malakma. Salaki, go ahead.
That's heavy. I don't want, like, you're right. Like, the American dream is is our nightmare, man. And that's what it's always meant to be. Like, what's the scripture say? Like, arise and depart, for this is not your rest. Like, this country, that American dream has never been and never will be for us. Our houses, man, because we're pursuing that American dream, is why you got black and brown houses broken, families broken, man. It's why you got, black and brown women out there prostituting themselves. It's why you got black and brown men out there, selling drugs and gang banging and murdering one another, because they all want that American dream. They all want to get rich and live like this oppressor, man. They all want to get rich and live good like the white man lives, and have that white picket fence in that nice suburb, you know what I mean? With white neighbors, where everything is all good. But lo and behold, nobody knows what really goes down out there, man. These oppressors, are on a whole nother level on how they live. But we want to, we go, we lose our minds trying to get what they got, man. Wanting to live like them. That's why we hate each other, man. That's why we attack. We'll rob our street vendors. We'll, make music videos dissing each other. We'll, be out there gang banging and hating on one another because we want to be like this oppressor. Because this oppressor does that. Esau does that, man. Esau owns the entertainment industry. Esau owns the religious, corporations, whatever you want to call them. Like Esau owns all of that. It's all a propaganda. It's all, what's that called? Like I always say, like MK Ultra is real, and the proof of that is in that Christian church, man, which is the greatest psychological warfare tactic placed on us since 1492, man. You got to ask yourself why they came and robbed, raped, and murdered in the name of the Bible. Because these other nations know who we are, man. They know our origin, man. And they used that Bible against us so that we would never want to touch it or go back to it, man. In their minds, they used that so to make sure that we would never want to, wake up and realize who we truly are, man. And that's why, this oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of, man, because he knows, he knows who we are, and he'll do everything he can to make sure that we never find out who we, that we never find out our true identity, man. Because we call ourselves Hispanic and Latino, right? Hey, none of us come from Spain. Black man, he call you African American. You don't come, you're not African. Native American, right? You're not American. Man. The Americans, you're not Italian, man. Americo Vespucci. These are all bywords that are placed on us to cause confusion. Meanwhile, these other nations, right? The Asians, the Arabs, the East Indians, man, they got their culture, they got their identity and their heritage, and they that's why they're living how they're living, man. They know to be separate from this oppressor, to be separate from America. They come over here and they stick with their own, man. We as black and brown, right, need to realize that, to come within our own, man, to let go of the ideals of America, right? Because I believe what's one of the definitions of decolonization? It was ridding yourselves of the ideas of the colonizer, paraphrasing it, of course, right? So that's how you know that the ISUPK truly is about, decolonization. That this is a pro-indigenous movement. This is a pro-Raza movement. This is a pro-black movement. Because everything here is to uplift black and brown, man. We teach this truth, man, which is carnalismo, man, brotherhood and sisterhood, so that we come together with our own and we can build up our people, man. And we don't have to go to, we can wake up and stop following their religion. We can wake up and get out of that Christian church, man. We can wake up and not want to think that aborting our baby is the answer, to how we're gonna get ahead in this next life. This oppressor throws so much propaganda against us, man. Even the Pope doing what he did was, psychological warfare, man. That's what that was, man. And I'm sure it's not. It's only a matter of time before he goes to Mexico to pull some kind of stunt and also do another mockery, and we gonna love him for it. That's what that Black Panther movie is, man. For both black and brown, which is just psychological warfare and propaganda, man, meant to keep us asleep, meant to keep our spirit beaten down, man, so that we never, come against America, so that we never, learn to hate this oppressor, that we keep loving them, man. That's what this oppressor wants, to keep being slaves, good slaves, man, to keep loving them and keep wanting them. Because here's another thing, man. Why do we have to look to them for to be authentic, right? What was it when it comes to entertainment, right? With Eazy-E and with Dr. Dre, right? I spoke about this with the canal with IR, man. Like, it's like we our music isn't valid unless Esau, unless we're at Esau's record label. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like we got representation for the Raza when they put us in that movie, right? And the same thing for our black brothers and sisters in that Black Panther movie. All of a sudden now we have our own superhero because Marvel finally put us on there, man. Like, when we could have been coming up with our own since, for the longest. We had our own, man. We had our own system, man. But we wanted to join America and be like them, and that's why we're jammed up right now. That's why the Pope gets to wear a headdress, man. That's why, America can tell you to speak English only and treat you like an immigrant on your own soil. That's why America can tell you to get over slavery. That had happened so long ago, man. Because we haven't woken up to who we truly are, man. We haven't stood up to this oppressor.
That's
so
right.
Like, I'm gonna give the floor back to the next, brother that wants to speak.
Okay, no sweat, brothers. Chari Austin, you guys wanna jump in real quick? I'm having some audio problems, and I'm trying to get them adjusted real quick. So if you guys jump in real quick, you can do me a favor.
Come,
Come,
sir.
come.
If I could, what the brother Malakma was just bringing up was just so eloquent. You know what I mean? If blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, it's damn near like if we can just get power washed.
Right.
You know what I mean? If we can just wash the rust off of us, we'd be something just so beautiful. So beautiful in the eyes of the Most High. You know what I mean? We are a special people. Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians, like everything we do is just so golden. Down to the Latino culture, the damn Asians, it's trying to steal the La Raza culture.
Filipinos.
Yeah, I mean the Filipinos. Man, I'm disgusted. You know what I mean?
If I could just say one thing. I just gotta say one thing. And you know the craziest things, the blacks and Hispanics, we so destroyed, and Native Americans, we so destroyed here in America that niggas will become so fascinated with anime and with Japanese movies and the kung fu flicks. They'll go try to learn Chinese, go buy kimonos, go learn the Japanese language, fall in love with it.
Right.
While the whole time your oppressor's trying to be like you. The whole time the Pope's wearing a headdress. They claiming your culture. They sitting there, the Filipinos, the Japanese, they're over here trying to be Chicanos, trying to talk like you. I saw that video. He's like, yeah, man, my name's OG Two Tone. You know, yeah, they're trying to talk like us and everything.
No, go ahead, Malakma.
Hey, that's heavy. I don't want you to bring that out, man, because it's like I said, man. It goes back to the Tiger video and that incident, because it's not the first incident, right? You had YG who did the same thing, right? And Rasa was in the uproar about that. You know what I mean? And boycotting, their music. And like I said, man, I'll say it again. Like, I understand the anger. I don't excuse it, them being offended by it, right? If you're saying it's offensive, it's offensive. But the thing is, now, why is it a different story when it's the goddamn Asians, right? When it's the Asians, when it's the who else be doing it, man? The white man. I said, like, to Officer Kaya, I don't know if you've seen this, man. There's a group out there in Europe, Slovakia or something, that literally dress up like Aztecas, like Mexicas.
I seen them.
And try to reenact that. Like, they made a live action role playing out of Aztec and Mexica culture. And Raza was like not as outraged about it. Like, they saw it like as a badge of honor, man. Which is just, to me, it's just disgusting, man. Like, these devils made a hobby out of how we live, man.
If I could, Malakma.
Go ahead, sir. Salaki.
If I could, Salaki, just what you saying is so heavy, because I was just talking to it about it with Kazakiad before you came on. If it was a nigga,
out of how we live, man.
If it was a nigga that went out there and put on a headdress, I was just talking to it about it with Kazakiad before you came on. Like, this is where you gotta realize, like, if it was a black man that went on there, put on the headdress, if it was a black man that went on there rocking feathers on him, if it was a black man trying to represent his native heritage, the Native American community would have lost their mind. But then now you see everybody with the Pope, everybody's so happy about it, everybody's all up in arms. I seen Native Americans crying. I see cats out there doing it, looking like it's something beautiful, like it's something nice, like it's something to behold.
Hey, Shalakia brothers, let me interrupt real quick. I'm having some audio issues coming from my end, so I'm trying to keep up with y'all as best as I can. You know what I'm saying? So let me get back on here real quick. Shalakia to all the brothers, man. I'm trying to get on here as best as I can, okay? But go ahead. Don't let me interrupt.
Salaki to Officer Karyash. Salaki, sir, like, just real quick, because that's heavy, man. You saying that it's like they call us culture, what is it, appropriating indigenous culture, and we're committing indigenous erasure, man. So I that's why I say this now, man. Do not tell me anything about cultural appropriation or indigenous erasure when y'all putting a headdress on the Pope, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's my point.
you can miss me and miss me with that wabo and that wabru talk too, man. Because that's another thing that they try to call us. First we're wannabe Aboriginals, now we're wannabe Hebrews, man. Good night. Like you know what I mean? So this the terms they be throwing us, man. Go take that and deal with the Pope, man. Deal with that before you come at us. You know what I mean?
And if I could, Malakma, just because what like I said, me and Malakma, if y'all brothers
so
don't
Salakia, Akia, man, I'm having some issues with my audio. I'm not being able to hear. I know you can hear me, but I can't hear you. For some reason, my audio just went crazy. So, but I'm hearing you off what we're talking about. I'm hearing you guys about the cultural appropriation that other nations have against us. You know what I mean? I'm hearing about the cultural appropriation that's taking place. And you're absolutely right, man. I see that all the time. And I see that our people have no problem with cultural appropriation. To them, it's all okay. If you see Asians dressing like cholos, it's okay. You see white boys trying to be black, it's okay. But when you see when we try to be other nations, oh, you an Oreo, isn't that what they used to call you? Oh, you a chocolate chip. That's the kind of names they come at us like. Mexicans trying to be black, what they used to call us chocolate chip, because you brown but you got a little black in you. So that was the kind of words they used to get us with in school. They'd be like, oh, this fool acting like a chocolate chip. Or Oreos, it was a black brother trying to be white. You know what I'm saying? But when we're doing it, it seems like it's offensive. But when the other nations do it, to them it's okay. I had just seen this video that Ayar had posted where it was this Caucasian guy dressed in a Mexican hat with a sarape and a mustache. And he was going around and he was asking other Caucasians, hey, what do you think of me dressed like this? And their response was, well, first he told a black brother, and the black brother asked him, well, you Mexican? And he said, well, no. He said, well, then you shouldn't be wearing that. Then he asked an Asian, and the Asian's response was pretty much similar. You shouldn't be doing that because that's appropriation. And then he went to a couple other non-Hispanic brothers, and they all had the same answer. They all were like, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be dressed like that. Then he took that same costume and went down to Olivera Street, which is an all-Hispanic place here in LA. And when he asked a Hispanic brother, what do you think of the way I'm dressed? The Hispanic brother told him, there's nothing wrong with that. He said, I don't mind. And all the Hispanic brothers that he asked, they all had the same answer. They all said, it's okay, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And what I saw in that is, I told Lahab, what I see in that is that the problem with Hispanic people is that we don't care. That we don't have no problem with anything. That to us, it doesn't matter. And let me tell you something. That's the Christianity in us coming out, where it doesn't matter to us, but it should matter to us. It should matter, because if it mattered to us, we would see this whole situation of what's going on with the Native American Indian brothers, and we would take it to heart. We would see what's happening to our black brothers, and we would take it to heart. We would see what, let me tell you something, man. When it was not too long ago that they had the May 1st rally, and the May 1st rally bring a lot of... Oh, Salakia, let me get this brother's mic muted. Salakia. When the May March came out, a lot of Hispanic brothers came out to march against what was it? Their jobs, right? They had a problem with their jobs. Then they did come out in March, and then they had a problem. But just because it had to do with their work, not because it had to do with their people. And let me tell you, that should be a problem to us, because as many people that came out and marched on May 1st, if they would have marched during the time of the deportation and incarceration of our people in the detention centers, if that many of us would have marched during the detention centers and what they were doing to our families in the concentration camps on the borders of Mexico, of the borders of America, if all those people would have came out, then it would have made a difference. And those people would not have been incarcerated or separated from their families like they were. They wouldn't have been dying in those cages because children died. They wouldn't have been children, the women wouldn't have been molested or raped because women were molested and raped. That wouldn't have happened if our people would have came together the way they did for their goddamn jobs. For supporting, you know, because that's not even your job. You're making another nation rich by working in those places. You ain't getting rich. You're just barely striving to survive. Pay your rent, pay your bills, pay your car payment. That's all you're really doing because you ain't getting ahead in America. Not a bit. But you know what? We don't care enough to show support for our own people. That's a fact that I'm speaking. We don't care enough to show support for our own people. That's why America does with us whatever the hell they want to do with us. That's why our people, like, man, that's why our people are dead in this country. You know what I'm saying? Because instead of showing support when it's really needed, we're out there marching for stupidity, marching for other goddamn things that make no sense. And you know, us in the UPK, we're not about marching. We would never march for any purpose at all. But it's something to think about when these people who are in the world will get together and march for the goddamn increase in pay at their job, then they will for the children dying in the reservations, in the concentration camps, on the streets of America, and all these other things that are important to our people. Go ahead, brothers. Go in on it.
If I could, sir, just real quick. You know what I mean? What you was bringing out was so heavy when it comes to Black culture and so-called Europeans impersonating Black culture. We have some type of, you know, fad for it. We're gonna invite them to the barbecue. Right. When a so-called white man is pretending to be Black, we say as Black people we're gonna invite him to the barbecue. Right.
They say the same for Hispanics.
But when a Hispanic by nature has the same spirit as a Black man, we want to shun him.
Right.
You know, this place is just so disgusting and so backwards. You know, Barack for Commander Junior Hanna in the ISUPK that we have came into the truth of the Most High in Christ. And woke us up out of this goddamn slumber and sleep that we've been here in America. My brother is the so-called Hispanic, not some damn white man that's going to impersonate my spirit and say that he can get a goddamn plate of collard greens and macaroni and cheese. When a so-called Hispanic, who's my brother by blood, I'm going to deny him. You know what I mean? It's just so disgusting. If I could, sir, you know, that's just something that's just been on my mind so heavy. We so quick to accept the so-called nations. But when it comes to our brothers and our sisters, that's the Hispanics and Native American Indians, we so quick to shun them. We so quick to say, in prison, Black people hang with Black people. Hispanics hang with Hispanics. White people hang with white people. We so quick to gentrify ourselves when we the same family. But when it comes to the other nations, they invited to the barbecue. Right. They invited to the barbecue. You know what I mean? Which is so disgusting. If
I could, and like Malakma said, that propaganda has been pushed through on us through every single thing in Hollywood. They got Dancing with the Wolves, American Me, all these cats, Blood In, Blood Out, all these cats, they showing different white heroes coming in and being accepted by the different brothers. And oh man, he different though. He's different. Yeah. We can't throw him to the side. And this is how we've been made. Like even the Native American Indians. You know, I speak with the Native American Indian community so much, and they have such an animosity, a lot towards Hispanics, but more towards Black people. And when I sit there and I actually talk with them and we compare our lives, I'm like, you know, y'all can't pretend you can't see this. That our lives are damn near identical. And they sit there and they'll be like, well, yeah, but that's their struggle. That's what they're going through. We don't got nothing to do with that. And it's so evil because like Officer Awalon was bringing out, it's only us that they want to replicate. You better not appropriate Asian culture. You ain't canceled. They're gonna hunt you down. They're gonna come to your doorstep. You losing everything. But let you appropriate the Native American culture. Let the Pope get the headdress put on them. One of the most sacred things amongst the Native American Indian community. They get mad at our black brothers for coming to the Passover with a headdress on. But then they don't say nothing to the Pope. They get mad at black people for trying to claim their indigenous roots because black people lived amongst the Native Americans. That's facts. The Native Americans accepted black people. We had marriages with black people. They made laws where Native Americans and Hispanics couldn't marry black people because they knew once we joined together, we'd become too powerful for them, man. And that's what's so heavy out of one. And I just want to end it with this story. There was a cat I know a long time ago when I was younger. I used to go amongst the Native American ceremonies, the powwows, different things. And there was a brother from Lakota tribe. He was the son of a chief. His name was Junior. And me and Junior, we were chopping it up one day. He was a little bit older brother in his late 30s. And we there chopping it up. And he was telling me one time about some cats in Arizona, some white devils that were appropriating the Native American culture. As you know, Officer Gazakia, the Temascal, or the sweat lodges that the Native Americans has, where they get a special type of rock, they heat it up, they put it in the teepee, and they throw the water in as a sweat lodge, as a part of purification. He told me that there was a group of white colonizers in Arizona trying to replicate it, trying to do the same thing. I'm sitting there, I'm like, why is he telling me this story? He's like, but you want to know what, young brother? I said, what? He said, they don't know that we know how to do our ways of life. And there's no replicating our ways of life. They should leave our way of life to us. He said, you know what they did? They put the wrong type of rocks in the fire. Now, I don't know if anyone knows science here. If you heat up any kind of rock, it's going to blow up. So these cats ended up blowing up. I believe like 2 devils died, and 8 of them had to go to the hospital. Like this is just the Lord showing you, white people out there, man, you better stop trying to be like black people. Stop being like the Native Americans. Stop sitting here and being like, I got 118 Cherokee. Right. It's okay. My great grand, what they say, she a Cherokee princess. Right. Like, no, she wasn't. she was raped. Come on now. Right? Like they want to sit here and play this facade and this lie to try and fit in with our lifestyles. And us as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we accept them in, especially the Native Americans. Oh, don't you get a man on the res? Don't you get a sister on the reservation? Don't get a sister from the barrio. Don't get a black woman. She ignorant from the ghetto. No, go get you a white man. Go get you a white girl, man. The hell with that, man. My house is gonna be filled with fried bread, tacos, and fried chicken and waffles. Shalom. Go ahead. And what?
No, empanadas. But if I could, just real quick, just to piggyback off what the brother was saying, it's just, you know what I mean.
You're right about that. You damn right about that. You damn right about that. And let me tell you something. What happens is that, you know, our own people don't care about that. Our own people seem to ignore the fact of what's going on, because like Malakma said, they'll come against us for showing them who they really are, you know, of the tribes of Israel, and they'll come against us, but they won't come against fools like that. They won't come against people like that. And that's the problem with Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Right. The problem with us is that we'll forgive everybody else, but we'll hate each other for what's going on. You know what I mean? And let me tell you, I know we're going into 2.5 hours of show. As always, man, we be digging into the inconvenient truth, as always. But Ayar, if you're still there, Ayar, you know, I think Ayar wanted to jump in real quick and say something. If you're still there, Ayar, you know, we still good. You just got to make sure your mic is down, because I get echo off your mic. Okay, Khan. So, but you know, what we're talking about here, about the Native American Indian boarding schools and the children, and really what we're really talking about is the actions, right, that the Pope took. But let's go even deeper than the actions that the Pope took. What we're talking about is the reaction of our own people allowing these devils to come onto our land, come into our territory, wear our headdresses, and we're okay with it. But yet we come against each other. You know what I'm saying? We come against each other, and that has to be the worst part of this whole thing we're talking about. And that is when we come against each other. Instead of showing love and understanding and trying to learn, you know, we seem to come against each other. I got this one thing that I tell, you know, at my work. I get a lot of Hispanic brothers who want to ask me questions because they know I'm UPK.
Right.
They want to ask me questions about you know what we know about our understanding of everything, carnal, of everything. And you know, I want to talk to them about it. But one of the things I tell them, you know, I tell my boy Steve. I'm just gonna go with one guy. His name is Esteban, but we call him Steve. I tell Steve, you know what, Steve? I want to tell you because he asked me today, hey, carnal. He goes, where did we come from? Like, where did Aztec people come from? I tell him, carnal, I want to tell you, but you're so indoctrinated with the Catholic ways and the Christian ways that if I try to explain to you your real heritage, the part of your brain that knows all that's been educated in the Catholic and Christian ways will immediately turn on and come against me. And you will not believe anything I tell you because of how destroyed you are and how colonized your brain is, that you won't allow me to explain to you what it is. Before I even talk to you, you'll immediately come against me and put up a defense against what I'm going to tell you. Right. And I told him the other day, I said, brother, if I try to tell you where we come from, you're going to tell me the story of the monkeys. And he immediately said, oh, you mean Darwinism? I said, see, you already know what that is because you're educated like that. And let me get to the point. I think all of our people are like that. We can't speak to them in reality because the side of their brain that's open to understanding has been so perverted with Christian and Catholic ways that even to have compassion for their own people is out of the question, because the Christian and Catholic way was to destroy their people. So we're educated in the destruction of our own people. And anything that comes into logic of who we really are will always be looked at as a threat to the understanding of who they are. So before we end the program, with that in mind, I'm gonna let Chariash and the brother in Chicago go ahead and speak on that real quick, and that whole thing of how we're destroyed and how we can't ever understand, because as we can see, these people will never understand. Go ahead, carnales. Catholic way was to destroy their people.
It's like, sir, you know, this is something that I've seen my whole life as a black man. I seen it. Just real quick sidebar. When I was, I think like the 8th grade, I moved into an all Hispanic neighborhood, and I seen the same things destroying the Hispanic community that was destroying the so-called black community. And there's some, you know what I mean, that's just stuck with my mind. Like I couldn't shake it. It stuck with me until I came to the truth and actually realized what was going on. But you know, the same devices that we learned from elementary school on up is something that just sticks in your mind like a goddamn tack, like a nail that's just been hammered in your mind, that you have a defense mechanism to the truth, to where if it's anything that comes up against white supremacy, if you're a good home trained slave, you're gonna come against that. So when you hear the truth and you're not a person of reason, a person that knows that America is not your rest, you're gonna come up against that. So what Kazakh Yad, my Ottawa, is bringing out is the absolute truth. That's the reality that I lived as a black man here in America. Slaggy.
If I could, with my Ottawa, both Kazakh Yad and also Awalon was bringing out, it is 100% the truth. Because us as Native Americans, Hispanics, and black people, we fail to realize, we fail to look over the fence, over the bush, over that threshold, that division that they put between us. Because that's what we got to remember. Like, we naturally together, when we was here in America 500 years ago, and blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans were forced to intermingle with each other, we didn't have a problem with each other. Go look at the maroon settlements. Go look at all the Cherokee slaves that the Cherokee bought off white slave owners. They did that because they had love for black people. The Hispanic tribes were freeing black people from their oppressors, from the conquistadors, that they would bring them over here to work. Why? Because they had love for black people. But after all these years, 500 years later, there's so much division, and like also said, devices is the perfect word for it. Just like in the scriptures, there's many devices our oppressors used against us: religions, gangs, everything they put out into our communities for us to be divided. The Asians aren't divided. They made a whole part in the Bill of Rights now. They stop Asian hate. When you gonna stop the Mexican hate, man? Stop the Native American hate. This was Native hate right here, man. Them putting on a damn headdress on the Pope, on the man in charge of the biggest cartel on earth, on the biggest terrorist organization on earth, was put on a whole, like, I couldn't picture it. Now, I've been to ceremonies where they adorn people with headdresses and everything. And it's so glorious. It's such a monumental thing. It's not a light thing. It's like when a brother get raises up. When a brother makes it to a captain or general, you just excited, man. Most High Christ, everybody, and it's the same thing when you get the headdress. It's like, man, he really earned that. That's something, he got all this way. And to give it to the man in charge of the criminal enterprise that destroyed our people, like, it's insanity. And this just goes to show Native Americans, black people, Hispanic people, men, women, and children, you are not loved in this place. That's what we have to remember. That us in this place, we're not loved. And we have to band together once again. And all we have is each other. The Native American, all they have is the black man. The black man, all you have is the Hispanics. The Hispanics, all you have is the Mexicans, the Puerto Ricans, the Guatemalans. All you have is the Native Americans. We have to love each other once again, because they won't love us. All we'll get is crocodile tears and false apologies. If we want our power back and we want to have love for each other again, or someone to love us, we have to love each other. That's all I had to say. So it's a lot.
And Salaki, damn right. Go ahead, Malakma, jump in real quick. Let's see what you got to say.
If I can add to what you and Officer Awalam and Officer Karyash was bringing out, right? Like, what the scriptures say, right? You did not chose me, but I chose you, right? Like Christ is how. That's why our people don't get it. Like a lot of our people, like you can break it down. You can tell them all about being an Israelite, and their response is, anger and outrage and offense, man. Because they don't understand. They don't have the understanding yet. They weren't chosen to be in this position yet. You know what I mean? So of course it makes sense as to why, like for us, because we can see the bigger picture of what's going on. We can see, past, these oppressors when they talk about how much they love us, how much, they respect us, and they're how sorry they are for the crimes their ancestors did. That's why we have camp. That's why when we bring out that scripture in Isaiah, right, for them to kiss the boots, because if they're really sorry, they'll do it. And then a lot of times, what they're really just talking and saying that, but they're not willing to at least kiss our boots. They're not willing to get back the land their ancestors took, right? They're not willing to give back, that money that they made off of our oppression, man. And that's the thing, man. Like, never mind, like, let's say, that everything else, isn't concrete and questionable. One thing that you cannot deny, Rasta, one thing that you cannot deny, black and brown man, indigenous man, is our oppression. All three groups suffer the same oppression. You know what I mean? Just because you live on the res, just because you live on the ghetto, just because you live on the barrio, doesn't make it any different, man. You got young black and brown men getting gunned down by police. You got young black and brown women disappearing. You got child molestation going on in all three communities. You got, drug use, drug dealing, crime, gangs, all that going on in all three communities. All three groups have been stripped of their identity, man. And the only thing you know about yourself is what America tells you you are, man. When we show you the other part that America doesn't want you to know, man. Because ask yourself this, Rasa. Ask yourselves this, black and brown man, First Nations man and woman. What were in those books that the colonizers burned, right? About why did they take so many artifacts? What's back over there in Spain, right? What's back that they took back over there underneath the Vatican and Italy and Spain, Slovakia? What's in those artifacts that they took, man? How did Christopher Columbus know to come over here, man? Because I always say this, man. That's an insult to my indigenous ancestors to say he came over here by accident.
Right.
He came over here trying to find a shortcut and just happened to land here, man. I don't believe that one bit, man. That's how you know that this oppressor is a goddamn liar, man. This was no accident. Everything they did to us was not an accident, man. It was deliberate. And they know who we are, man. They truly do know who we are, man. So don't put it past them. And then I'm gonna close it out with this, man. The Bible is not the white man's book, man. I challenge any, Christian, anybody coming against us to prove that it's the white man's book. Show me the author of the Bible that's a white man. If it's a white man's book, show me what's white in the Bible. Because there's nothing white about it other than Esau being the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. So that's about like what I want to say on that, man. Like Raza, black man and brown man, indigenous man, First Nations man and woman, man. If y'all truly want to be about decolonization, if y'all truly want to be about that revolution, come to the ISUPK under command of Jimmy Honda, man. Come to class and learn the truth, man. Learn that brotherhood, man, because the scriptures always also say this, man, because a lot of y'all want to talk about y'all love the Creator, y'all love the Most High, right? The Great Spirit. But y'all don't understand that in order to love Him means you got to love that black or brown man as yourself, man.
Damn
right.
right.
To love the Lord is to love that black or brown man and woman.
Damn
so
right.
I'll give the floor back to the next brother, man.
Damn, that's right, man. Let me tell you something. Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody for jumping on the show and being with us, man. It's important that we speak about these things because, if we don't speak about them, who's going to speak up on them? You know what I mean? And that's what the res is all about. That's what the inconvenient truth is all about. It's about us having a voice for what's going on right now in America. The ISUPK is the voice of Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians. We are the ancestors who once passed away as revolutionists, and we're back again to lift that voice and make sure that this time we come together and unite as one. Let me tell you, the Black Panthers, the Brown Berets, the Puerto Rican movement, the American Indian movement failed because of lack of coming together. We're not going to fail. We're going to make sure that Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans rise up to the point of where we're supposed to be. And it's going to rise up right here in the ISUPK because this is the place the Lord has chosen for this to happen. You know what I'm saying? And let me tell you, don't take for granted Hispanics, man. Don't take for granted Black or Native American Indians or Puerto Ricans or Dominicans or Salvadoreños, Guatemaltecos. Don't take us for granted because this is our turn. The Lord has called us to do this. And let me tell you something. Right here in ISUPK Mexico, ISUPK Inconvenient Truth, ISUPK Latin America, the ISUPK, and all the shows that we put out, this is what we're going to do. We're going to raise up a nation. And this nation is going to be strong because the Lord says so. You know what I'm saying? Hey, the Water Brothers for being on the show. As always, the ISUPK Inconvenient Truth coming out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York City. I'm transmitting from occupied territory, northern Mexico, California, every Wednesday, putting it down. Don't forget, tomorrow we got 1 West Radio with Captain Godohar. Always tune into ISUPK Puerto Rico, La Biblia en tu idioma. You know what I'm saying? With Captain Asha Parayam, home of the truth, right here, ISUPK Mexico, every day of the week. And don't forget our show, La Neta, every Monday, We're all going to come together, the Latin American community right here in the ISUPK. I want to thank everybody for joining me, the Wada, Most High in Christ, for the show, for the brothers who came on. Till next week, I'll say Shalom, Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai to all the brothers. Shalom, I left off by Hashem Yahushai to all the sisters who joined me. Till next week, the Wada for joining, and Shalom, Israel.
Damn right, damn right, damn right.
Shalom,
Shalom, Adawan, shalom.